Coach's Corner with Coach Heck and the infamous Coach Patrick King. You're stuck with me, man.
I'm stuck.
You are stuck with me. I ain't going anywhere.
There's a lot of people that are jealous of me for sitting here, and there's some people that there's a little sympathy going on at the same time.
There's more people that are sympathetic to you. I'm just saying that much right now.
How long did you guard Larry Bird? For about 4 or 5 minutes, the rest of the half.
How'd he do? How'd you do against him?
Between myself and my roommate, Don McLaughlin, we held him to 48 that afternoon.
Just remember what Ron Hecklinski said today. Man, you ain't that good. The scouting report said you were pretty good. You ain't that good. Oh, man. Are you kidding me?
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Coach's Corner with Heck and King. It's September 16th. We are live from Dorbin's Old Town Tap in South Bend. And here's another edition of Coach's Corner with Heck and King with a special guest appearance from Kenny Peterson, and we'll explain why in a second.
Yes, we will. Good evening to everybody. Here we are at Dorbin's Old Town Tap in South Bend, and it is family karaoke night here tonight. It starts here in just a half hour or so.
Okay.
So we're happy to be here and welcome everybody. As you can see, Kenny Peterson has joined me. Kenny and I do Friday night ball games together, so welcome to Kenny.
Yes.
Glad to have you.
I feel like Joey Bishop tonight coming in replacing Johnny Carson, for those that remember Joey Bishop.
Yeah, exactly. I totally understand. Totally understand.
Heck always calls
Heck's
him
under the
Wally
weather
Pitt.
a little bit.
Yes.
Heck will be with us here in a little bit by phone. He is home. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I'll let him decide what he wants to talk about with that. But he's got some neck issues and enough that he needs to stay home. And well, anyway, he can explain.
He can explain it. Yes.
We've got a lot to talk about. We've got football. We've got high school football. We've got college football. We've got pro football. We've got WNBA has 1 week left in their season. We have baseball is down to the last 2 or 3 weeks. And what else? We've got the Solheim Cup golf. If we want to talk to the ladies, finish that. That was fun to watch yesterday. I watched quite a bit of that. So that was fun. We've got the President's Cup with the men coming up here in 2 weeks. So lots of stuff going on, and we'll get right to it. But wanted to make sure we welcome Kenny tonight. He's going to step in for Heck. And Kenny is unofficially, as we call him, the mayor of New Carlisle. So well, let's just talk. Let's jump in. Let's talk a little bit about some high school football.
Sure.
You and I saw South Bend Adams and New Prairie last Friday night. Let's talk about that a little bit. Tell me what your takeaway on that ball game. And obviously we've seen New Prairie quite a bit.
Yeah.
So we can talk about them.
And I think you look at New Prairie last week, Pat. They came in. They had a little bit of a chip on their shoulder after what had happened the week before against St. Joe, losing 7-0 in a game, and that a lot of folks in New Carlisle and Rolling Prairie were gnashing their teeth over some of the decisions that were made at times during the course of the game. But New Prairie came out on Friday night with a purpose to establish control early, and that's exactly what they did. Give Adams credit. They came out right after New Prairie scored right out of the bat. They scored a touchdown. It's 7-6, and you're thinking, hey, we might have a ball game here.
Right.
But then New Prairie just put it to them from that point on, 41 unanswered points. And it was just a good team effort from the Cougars on Friday night. And, Adams right now is in a rebuilding mode. And, it may take some time for Frank Karszewski to get things going back there. But, you look at the Cougars right now, they're 2-1, as we sit here tonight.
Right.
And the road doesn't get any easier because on Friday night, you and I will have them over at Rice Field for an audio-only broadcast on broadcastsport.net as they take on the Lions of Elkhart. And you know this as well as anybody. This is an Elkhart team that comes in. They're having a great year right now. They took care of business last week against South Bend Riley. But this is probably the most athletic team that not only New Prairie will see, but maybe the most athletic team in the entire NIC.
Well, I think you're right. And Elkhart is a 6A school.
Right.
They along with Penn, are the only two 6A schools in the NIC. And they're getting better every game.
Right.
And they've got some good, big ball players. They've got some big kids along the front line. I think 3 of them already have Division I offers.
Yes.
So just to give you some statistics and a little bit of a tease about Elkhart. So we're looking forward to that. South Bend Adams, on the other hand, as you said, they're really struggling. They're playing a lot of freshmen and sophomores. And, anytime you've got freshmen and sophomores playing varsity football,
Right.
You're asking for trouble. And Adams right now, matter of fact, their junior quarterback did not play because he was in concussion protocol. So they started a sophomore, and he got hurt by halftime. And they had a freshman in the second half during the running clock. So just to show you, that's how thin. And Adams is a 5A school,
Right.
but yet they're going with having to go with a lot of younger kids. So that's the one game we saw.
Well, we were talking about Elkhart. You look at what they've got coming to the table next Friday night over at Rice Field. Just a solid ball club. Quinn Ross, the senior quarterback, pitcher on the baseball team.
Right.
He's going to lead that offense, and they got an offensive line. Just looking at the numbers here, Pat. I mean, this is almost small college. They're averaging almost 300 pounds across the front line, and that's going to be a real challenge for New Prairie on the defensive side. Yeah, they're a senior loaded team, but this is going to be you're talking small college offensive line and what they're going to see here on Friday night.
And I've been substitute teaching over in Elkhart off and on the last now 3 years, and I've been in that weight room quite a bit for gym class. And those football players are in that weight room, classes, and they're lifting weights instead of sitting in art or ceramics class, whatever it might be. But they're in there in the weight room, all 9 months out of the school year plus the summertime. So they've spent their time, as have the New Prairie kids, and that's what you have to do nowadays. Is you got to get in that weight room if you're a football player.
And to give you an idea of what they're going to run up against with Elkhart defensively, you look at their 3 down linemen. You got Marion Dye, 6'6", 270, a senior. You got Carmine Orozco, 6'4", 275. He's a senior.
Is Carmine eligible? He's one of the transfers from Mishawaka.
See, I don't know.
He must, if his name's on the 2 deep roster, he must be eligible. And he's a transfer from Mishawaka.
And then you got Kane Donovan at the nose. That's 5'11", 200. So right there, that front 3 is really going to be a challenge for New Prairie. And New Prairie's going to have a bit more on Friday night over at Rice Field, because if they think that they're going to line up seven guys on the line of scrimmage, think they're going to pound this Elkhart team, they're sadly mistaken.
Right.
They're going to have to be able to get guys like Bo Kamichek, Keegan Taylor, those guys. Reed Robinson's got to be a factor running the ball. They've got to get Henrich the ball. They've got to get their core players the ball. And then on the flip side, Elkhart has to stay disciplined and use their athleticism to their advantage.
I totally agree. Well, there's a start for our high school football. We'll get back to that some. Scott, why don't you talk about our sponsors? Our sponsors, Black Sedan Band, as you heard a little bit about them earlier. Tony Letcher Insurance, Han Funeral Home, Frick's Driving School have all been great sponsors for us. So, Scott, if you take that, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll see if we can find Heck on the phone, and we'll talk some more high school football.
Medicare plans can be confusing, but they don't have to be. I'm Tony Letcher, licensed insurance agent. I can help you compare your options because I'm appointed with many nationally recognized carriers. With my help, you can find the coverage that fits your needs and budget. I don't want you to be my client today. I want you to be my client forever. Call Tony Letcher today to schedule your free consultation or visit tletcher.com.
Facing the loss of a loved one can be overwhelming, filled with questions and stress. Han Funeral Homes in Mishawaka is here to provide compassionate support during these challenging times. With a deep commitment to the families they assist, Han Funeral Homes aims to deliver exceptional care and service. Their dedicated team of experienced funeral directors and staff is ready to guide and support you through every aspect of funeral planning. Located at 505 West 8th Street in downtown Mishawaka, Han Funeral Homes invites you to reach out at 574-255-1474 or visit their office for personalized assistance. Han Funeral Home, a family serving families. Looking to get your driver's license and hit the road with confidence? Choose Frick's Driving School, Northern Indiana's top-rated driving school. At Frick's, they offer expert instruction for anyone aged 16 and up, tailored to help you master the skills you need for a lifetime of safe driving. Their experienced instructors ensure you're well prepared for both the written and behind-the-wheels tests, and one of those instructors is our very own Coach King. Located on Addison Road in Mishawaka, they provide flexible scheduling and personalized lessons to fit your needs. Plus, they offer the state driving test in-house for just $65, making the process even more convenient. Call them today, 574-256-0650, or visit fricksdrivered.com to learn more.
Back at Dorbin's Old Town Tap in South Bend, it's Coach's Corner with Heck and King. If you want to get a hold of us, hit us on the Black Sedan text line. That phone number is 214-945-4134, or drop a comment in the chat on YouTube. And as always, like the video and subscribe to our channel, damn it.
You're right. Well, we're back, and as Scott said, you people that are on YouTube, like us, we appreciate. Still have a huge audience on broadcast sport. We're still bringing in a lot of people on broadcast sport that are watching us live. As Scott mentioned, you can also listen to us in your car if you're smart enough to know how to Bluetooth in Spotify or Apple Music or whatever. If you do podcasts in your car, quite honestly, we only maybe 15, 20 minutes at a time is all.
Or just podcasts at all.
Yeah, is all you can maybe you can tolerate us. You just never know. And Scott splits these things up too a little bit, so you can find us on YouTube tomorrow, the next day, or you can even look at last week's episodes too and find your favorite episode and listen to us. But we appreciate everybody tuning in, and we've had a lot of fun with this. Like I said, we've got Kenny Peterson with us tonight. Heck's at home, and he'll be joining us here shortly. But let's go ahead and continue some of the high school football we talked about. We talked about the New Prairie game that you and I saw. We also had Mishawaka, Marion, and St. Joe, which up here they call that the Holy War. And I think it was kind of a surprise. Now, the people we talked to is 27-zip Marion. And we were kind of surprised, concerning what we saw from St. Joe the week previous. But we understood that St. Joe had some turnovers that led to some opportunistic touchdowns for Marion, and just they never recovered from that.
And I think a lot of it too, maybe St. Joe was getting all the accolades from everybody telling them, hey, they got NIU'd a little bit. Maybe they were taking all the accolades from everybody, and Marion said, hey, this is the Holy War, boys. You better come strap it up and ready to go.
And that's tough scheduling too, to have New Prairie on the road. And then, back to back, they turn around and have to go to Mishawaka, Marion and play that. So that's two good games right in a row for them.
And Mike Davidson, I think, has done a really good job, with this group so far. They opened up with some two heavyweights in Mishawaka and Culver Academy. And we're seeing, Pat, that when you play a schedule like that to open the season, you find out a lot about yourself and you become better for that. And they've shown that. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what Marion can do Friday night over at Everwise Freed Field. Can they hang with Penn to give themselves a shot at the end?
Yeah, that's and that I really think that's going to be a close game. But again, I think it'll be turnovers.
Right.
Can they stay in the game, and can they maybe force Penn into some turnovers as well? We mentioned our game, the New Prairie Adams game. Penn had an easy game with South Bend Washington last week, and right now the two city schools are having a tough time along with Adams. The Penn game was 44-6 over Washington, and Elkhart was down 2-0.
Yes.
Riley hit a 2-run homer there early. They snapped the ball over the quarterback's head, and he just grabbed it and ran out of the end zone to take two. I will say this, and Scott, you mentioned this earlier in the week. Riley probably leads the world right now in safeties. They've got 10 points off of safeties.
Yeah, five safeties.
They're up to 5. That's almost. They've got more safeties than they have touchdowns, I think.
Riley has 44 points all year. The defense has scored 10 of them.
Yeah, exactly. So this week, as you mentioned, you got Marion at Penn, you got New Prairie at Elkhart, you've got Adams at St. Joe, and Riley at Washington. Probably the best game of the bunch is probably going to be the Marion Penn ball game.
Yeah, I think so, Pat, because I think that's going to be one of those games where, Marion went over there a few years ago and knocked them off at Freed Field. They get another shot, and this has been an interesting year so far for Penn. They had the close game with Valpo. Then Mishawaka really laid it to them hard, and they've been on the rebound ever since. But they're going to run into that stretch here towards the end of the year where they're going to have two tough games. Elkhart and New Prairie back to back towards the end of the year. But this is a game that Penn can't sleep on Friday night.
Yeah. Over in the Northern Lakes, here the last couple of years, I've really enjoyed the Northern Lakes Conference. They have become very competitive with good quality teams where they've got 4 and 5 teams every year that could not only win their conference, could also do well in the tournament.
Yes.
And with them having so many teams in different classes, we'll explain that here in a second. For example, last week, Concord Northridge, 34-17. Northridge has been good,
right?
And here they get spanked by 2 touchdowns. Mishawaka, same thing with Northwood. Northwood's in the state finals last year, right?
Yeah.
And Mishawaka puts it to them 35-19. Plymouth and Goshen, we've mentioned Goshen. Joey Heck down there at Goshen's new coach, and just trying to get things in order. And Goshen's going to struggle this year. They're just trying to get through it without getting people hurt and get themselves ready for next year. And then Warsaw came back. We mentioned a couple of weeks ago, they went down to Indianapolis, and Warren Central took care of them. And then they come back here in Wawasee 56-6. So this week, Mishawaka goes to Goshen. The good game is going to be Northwood and Northridge.
Yes.
Now up here, that's Battle of Elkhart County. That's will be a lot of buggies at the
yes,
at
yes,
the
there
game
will
for
be.
that when they're highly ranked. Concord, I believe, is in number 2 or 3 in the state right now in the latest rankings in 5A, and Warsaw's number 7 or 8 maybe in 6A. So that should be a good game. It's at Concord coming up on Friday. And then Wawasee and Plymouth, without hurting anybody, that's probably going to be the toilet bowl game.
The battle for last place, yeah.
That's going to be the one. Whoever loses, that's probably going to be stuck in last place trying to get out of last place.
Well, Pat, you were looking at the Northern Lakes Conference. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, this is just my own opinion. I think Mishawaka right now in this part of the state is clearly the class of 4A. They have really taken it to people. They took it to Penn. They took it to Northwood last week. They came within a 2-point play of beating Concord at Concord.
Right.
So you look at the job that Keith Kinder has done. Boy, they are doing some great things. And, of course, Bart Curtis at Warsaw. Have fun trying to spend 3 days defending what he tries to do, because that's a bear to handle.
Yes, it sure is. It's like getting ready for one of the military academies at the college level.
And Bart has established that program very, very well. You look at Northwood. Yeah, they lost a tough one the other night, but Northwood's going to benefit from playing the great schedule that they have played. They're 2-2 right now, but one of their losses too was to a Portage team that's kind of a little bit of a resurgence over the region there for them. So, you look at that 4A sectional that Mishawaka is going to be in. How would you like to deal this sectional? Mishawaka, Northridge, Northwood, St. Joe, Riley, Washington, Wawasee, Plymouth.
Yeah, I think statewide that will be one of the best sectionals around it. Like we said, any one of those teams is whoever wins that. We could predict out is a semi-state team
at the minimum. Yeah, they're good enough to win a semi-state.
They could be down in Indianapolis. Thanksgiving weekend. You never know. And the nice thing about the Northern Lakes, as I mentioned, no matter who wins the conference, you've got Warsaw in 6A.
Right.
You've got Concord in 5A. You have Mishawaka in 4A. You've got Northwood. Everybody just mentioned St. Joe, Riley.
Yeah.
Those are all 4A teams. Up here in the region area, they're talking about Hanover Central. Now, I have not seen them play yet, but we'll see that. Speaking of the region, let's talk about the Duneland a little bit. Right now, it's Crown Point and Valpo, which, it's been like that for the last couple of years. I think the surprise over there right now early, and they've only played 2 games in the conference, is Chesterton. They're 1-1, but they've had a nice start. They're 3-1, as is Merrillville. Merrillville, I think, is ranked really high in 5A as well. Yeah. And I think their only loss was to Crown Point.
Yeah.
So they're going to be chasing that one loss the rest of the year. Chesterton beat up on LaPorte last week. Crown Point beat up on Lake Central. Merrillville had a 2-touchdown game with Portage, 27-13. And Valpo had a close game with Michigan City. Yeah. Michigan City's just good enough to keep getting beat by one touchdown.
And you look at the Duneland, Pat, I think right now it's Crown Point and then the rest.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's nothing against any other teams, but I think early on Crown Point has really shown they are truly the class, I think, of 6A in this part of the state.
And I think if you, depending on which poll you look at, they've had Crown Point ranked as high as number 2 in 6A. You've got all those Indianapolis schools and then Crown Point.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, and Crown Point was in the state finals last year, as I recall. So, I would anticipate right now people kind of got them penciled in. I imagine there's a lot of Crown Point people already have reservations for Indianapolis on Thanksgiving weekend.
Well, you would think the way they're playing right now, because like I say, they are truly at a whole nother level than I think the rest of the conference is good. Take nothing away from the upper half, but when you get separating 1 from 2, there's 1 and then there's the rest.
There's a gap.
There's a gap.
Yeah. Well, and then let's jump down to the smaller schools, the 2A, 3A, and 1A schools. Indiana Northern States. Last week, Jimtown had a close game with John Glenn, and then Knox and Valley, Tippy Valley had been doing very well, and Knox put it to them 26-3 last week. And then LaVille and Bremen 13-12. Anytime the neighbors get together down there, it doesn't matter what the records are. They're gonna have a good close ball game.
And LaVille's really had Bremen's number over the last several years. They've been able to have some success against the Lions. You look at Knox. I mean, everybody knows the job that Russ Radke does down there. I mean, we saw it firsthand in all the years that he was at New Prairie, the job he did down, over at New Prairie, having the great success that he had. And you look at the Redskins, they're 2-2, but look at who their two losses are. To North Judson, who's
number 1 in 1A, and as you mentioned, they could probably be playing 4A ball right now.
They could compete with with a lot of 4A schools up here because they are just that good.
Yeah, they're good enough to maybe be in that Northridge sectional. You never know.
You know what? They would hold their own with most of those teams. This year. Yep. And then you look at Knox's other loss, 47-46 to Culver Academy, and we know the job that Andy Durrell has done down there. You look at Jimtown too, Pat. I mean, everybody was saying the sky is falling in Boggo after they lost to Northwood and Concord. Yeah. But you look at that. Those two games really helped Jimtown because they really found out a lot about themselves. Then when they go to Fairfield in week 3 and lay the smackdown on the Falcons,
who had been doing very well,
who had been doing extremely well, you look at that, you go, wow. And then they go to Walkerton last week and knock off Glenn. That's a series that's for the folks down in the Walkerton North Liberty area. That's a game that kind of rubs them the wrong way when you're 6-59 all time or whatever it is against the Jimmies. But Jimtown seems to have found its mojo again. And, that conference, Pat, I think is a really good small school conference.
That was a good decision, the 3 or 4 schools that got out of the NIC and rejoined this. You figure Jimtown and John Glenn and Bremen were all part of the NIC. They were playing the 3 city schools, basically. Right. There are at least 2 of them. Plus, they were playing the Catholic schools. Now they're in there with Knox, LaVille, and Tippy Valley. Tippy Valley got out of the 3 rivers. And I think it's a very, they've only played 1 conference game. So it's, that's all scheduling. Let's wait a couple more weeks before we, jumping to any big conclusions as we get here, getting ready for week 4 in the high schools. Statewide, in the 6A, they're all playing each other, but most of the, everybody pretty well won. The big game was Fishers and Southeastern. Right. So they kind of flip-flop this week. You'll see a little bit of movement in the standings there. But Center Grove, Ben Davis, for example, 42-19. Here's Ben Davis with 3 losses, but yet, they could still win their sectional. Carmel gets spanked by Louisville Trinity. The Cathedral Chittard game was a really good one. There's a 6A school playing, Chittard, who's a 3A school. Right. So, you'll see Chittard will still be ranked in the top 2 or 3.
They moved up to 4. Did they not?
They might have.
Yeah.
They might have. But Lawrence North's even good this year.
Yeah.
And they put it to North Central. Poor North Central. Oh. And they've got Elkhart's number 12 and Penn's 15. The 5A teams. This last week, a lot of movement. Last week, 5 of the 10 teams in 5A got beat. This week, just 1. Decatur Central lost to Martinsville, which was kind of a surprise. But Martinsville was undefeated, and they're doing pretty well too. The new rankings came out today, but I figured we'll worry about them, later on in the week. But you've got, like we said, Valpo and Merrillville up in the top 5. Concord's in the top 5. Right. Lafayette Jeff has not lost yet. Warsaw's number 6. East Central is 1 and they're now 2-2, but the 2 losses they have are to Ohio teams. So, and they've got Michigan City at number 12 last week.
Wow!
So just to show you who they're playing. So 5A has been pretty steady, as we mentioned around here. Most of the schools around here are 4A schools.
Right.
And number 1 is still New Palestine, which is just south and east of Indy a little bit on US 52.
I think they just scored another touchdown against New Prairie in that state finals.
Oh yeah, they're good. They beat up on Mount Vernon, struggling this year in Portville. This is not, they're rebuilding. But here it had Chittard at number 2 in 4A, and they're playing Cathedral. Yeah. So they'll might drop down to number 3. Who knows? Evansville Wrights is really good this year. You'll see them, being they'll probably Evansville Wrights will have to play New Pal, and the winner of that will be in the Dome.
Right.
Is what it amounts to. Greenfield, Leo, Martinsville, as I said, was number 6. So that was a legitimate game with Martinsville and Decatur Central. They've got Mishawaka at number 7. So well represented. New Prairie's number 9 in one poll, number 11 in the other. So good football up here in this area.
I don't know if you had a chance to look at some of the scores. I saw one before we came on the air. Northwestern and Lewis Cass last week. Almost was a basketball game. 64-55 the final.
Well, and I think I can one-up you one there. What was the Guerin Catholic score? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Brebeuf. It was Guerin Catholic. Is number Bremen or Brebeuf was 10, and Guerin Catholic I think is rated also. It was 69-62, and somebody asked,
oh my gosh,
said, "Is basketball start early?" 69-62. Guerin Catholic and Brebeuf, two of the private schools up on the northwest side. We kind of joke. Guerin is kind of basically Carmel Catholic right now.
Yeah.
If you want to put that, it's right almost into Westfield, and then Brebeuf is right there on 86th Street, over by the pyramids.
Yes.
They're on the northwest side in Indianapolis. So pretty good football.
One thing, Pat, too, is the fact that you look at some of these schools down in central, Indianapolis area. They're going on the road. You mentioned Louisville Trinity a couple times. Louisville Trinity's played Center Grove. They've played Carmel. I mean, these schools, people wonder why the schools at Indianapolis are always in the state finals and playing really high football. It's the level of competition they play.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
You look at it. That's no knock against anything up here, but you look at some of the teams that like Chittard. They're going to play Cincinnati Elder at the end of the year. Yeah. We remember when East Central made its run to the state finals. One of the teams on their schedule, Cincinnati Moeller. Now they lost to Moeller back on the 6th. But they're playing the likes of Moeller, and they're playing Ron Colley, and they're playing the teams that get them tournament ready.
Right.
And I think that's a big thing. Yeah, wins are nice, but you got to be able to have a schedule that gets you ready for the tournament.
And I think that's
the nice thing about how Indiana does it is everybody makes the state tournament, so you can go into the postseason at 5-5 conceivably and still be favorites to win the state finals. Because if your 5 losses are 5 of the best teams in the country.
And there were 2 guys that were responsible for the creation of the Indiana State Tournament. You know one of them.
One of them's got a football field named after him.
Amzie Miller.
Right.
The other one is the statistician at New Prairie on Friday nights for the football games in the booth, Tim Marker.
Is that right?
Yep. Amzie Miller and Tim Marker were the 2 guys. It was Amzie's idea, and Tim helped, and that's how they created the state football tournament as what it is today.
Well, back in the old days, we played 10 games and went home.
Yep.
And then I think my senior year, which has been 50 years ago, they decided they started having a point system, and that was the first year that they had a tournament.
Yes, 1973, I believe.
That was the first year that they had a tournament. And then they went to, in the 80s, they went to that cluster system. I was in Texas.
Oh, so anybody who was here at that time, even to this day, there's a chill that goes down my spine because that was the worst conceived system in football.
That did not work. So what they decided to do, as you mentioned, they backed it up. They went 9 games. So everybody plays 9.
Yep.
Then game number 10 is the first round of the sectional. And as you said, everybody's in.
Right. And when Amzie Miller proposed this, there were people that said, "Oh, this will never work. This will never work." And then when it succeeded, the people that doubted him were taking all the credit for the fact that the tournament's become what it is. And it's really the small communities, like the 1A and 2A communities, those people, when they're hosting a regional final or a semi-state, everybody and their brothers there for those games.
And what it's done is conferences are still important.
Right.
But they're not necessary. And it's allowed some of these teams like Carmel and Center Grove to go off and just be an independent.
Right.
And they don't care because because they know a conference championship is not going to be the same accolades as a state championship.
Right.
And it really resembles basketball, as some of the things that Heck and I've talked about off and on is, do you play tough competition for your non-conference games to get you ready for the tournament? And you see that now at the high school level where now they've got these Christmas tournaments where they've got shootouts, and you'll see 4 really good teams at one place during Christmas vacation, or you'll see 8 really good teams, depending on how big of a tournament it might be. And, you may have a team that's ranked in the top 10, go to this tournament and lose twice. But that's what they want to do. They want to go get their players better because maybe the conference they're in or their regular schedule does not allow for that. Or it also gets them out of the area.
Right.
I mean, that's what I remember when I was coaching. That's what we did during the summer was we'd go to Indianapolis and play.
Right.
I remember one year heck, we took the kids down to Seymour and played on there in the summer, and played a bunch of summer basketball, and with the Southern Indiana schools. So it gets you out of the area and gives you a chance to see. And that's what these football teams are doing now, where you've got Warsaw going down and playing Warren Central.
Right.
You've got these Indianapolis schools. I think early on, Homestead played Carmel, I think. So, and that's usually a semi-state game.
Right.
But and Crown Point, I think, played an Indianapolis team, but they also
they played an Arizona team.
They played an Arizona team. That's right. And we've got people up here that'll go up and play the Michigan schools, or they'll go over to Ohio and play. So that gets them ready. The rankings are nice.
Ago when I think we went to play in that Carmel summer tournament. I was going into 8th grade, and somebody on your Adams team got sick or something, and you were short a guy. You only had like 6 people, and you made me play.
Yeah,
and I had to guard Yogi Ferrell.
You had to guard Yogi Ferrell at Carmel.
Hope you enjoyed that, by the way.
When I was 13.
Yeah, he's 13, and Yogi was a junior, going to be a senior in high school. Yeah, wow. Yeah. See, those are Kodak moments that they cherish.
Yeah, you were talking about scheduling.
Would that be considered child abuse?
Yes, it would. Yes, it would.
We played Lawrence North later in that tournament. I still remember the scratch marks going down my arms I had from trying to fight through screens and stuff against those dudes.
Yeah, and that's again. Those are teams we never got to play. And if you remember, when we were at Madison, we played at Warren Central, and we played Cathedral. And we had a huge crowd of people in there because Cathedral had the Hartman kid that went to IU.
Yes,
he was a junior to be senior, and he was playing. So they had all these coaches in there watching him. And my little Madison team, it was like maybe my second year down there.
Yeah,
we're playing Cathedral, and we actually beat them. And of course, we were everybody's best friend for about 20 minutes.
Then we had to turn around and play. We had to turn around and play Bloomington North.
Then we went in the other gym. No, it was the purple team. It was Bloomington South, because JR was coaching, and we had to go over in the field house and play Bloomington South. So here's Madison. Of course, the parents had never been through anything like that before.
Right.
And we're up there and we're playing Cathedral. Then we play Bloomington South. And then I can't remember who the third team we played, but we had 3 games in one day. And the parents were just amazed that we were, it might have been Fishers.
Yeah.
So we had a good time.
So while we have a moment, with a lot of college football this weekend, and we talked a little bit off air, Pat. Probably the one game that really kind of got my attention was Indiana's performance at the Rose Bowl. First time they'd been there since 1968. When they actually played in the Rose Bowl.
Yes, they did.
And they looked like a team Saturday night that, it's only a quarter way through the season. But when you watch this Indiana team, and I'll get your thoughts. I mean, they look like a Big Ten team on Saturday.
They looked like a pretty good team. And if you think about it now, with the transfer portal, things are a little different. One of the things I've always talked about is when a new coach comes in and has immediate success, is it because of him? Is it because the previous coaching staff left him? And
or a little of both, maybe.
And I think nowadays it's a little of both. And as most people know, IU, they made a lot of transfers. Somebody said he brought in 40 new players.
Something like that.
That's a lot of people. And he was the previous coach, I think it's at James Madison, and did very, very well there last year. So they're off to a good start.
And he's done well everywhere he's been. He's been at Indiana, PA. I believe, I can't remember where he was at after that, but he then went to James Madison, and now he's at Indiana. And you look at what they did, racking up 400-plus yards against UCLA. Curtis Rourke was just phenomenal, 25 of 33 for 307 yards. And what impressed me, they were 9 of 12 on third down on Saturday.
Right. And, is the jury still out? Maybe. The week prior, they had put up a lot of 70-some points against, was it Indiana State?
It was Western Illinois.
Western Illinois. I beg your pardon. It was Purdue that played Indiana State. So
look how that turned out for Purdue.
Yeah, exactly. So here we keep talking about people in their first couple games, their non-conference schedule, playing up or playing equal. And having a tough time playing, just like Notre Dame opens with Texas A&M,
right?
And then the next week they pay Northern Illinois to come play, and that backfires. So did UCLA? That was a conference game, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
So there's no pay to play in that game. IU's paying their own way out there, and
You haven't
the
seen the
nice
new Big
thing
Ten
was
map commercial? Los Angeles is Big Ten country, baby.
yes, it is, and one of the things you think of too is that's a huge recruiting issue for IU. Think about it. IU goes out to Los Angeles for the first time in forever,
Right.
and they win
On national television.
win convincingly. So now all of a sudden the people are thinking, okay, IU has a football team.
There's a great column on SI.com. I want folks to take a look this week, written by Todd Golden. And the column reads, maybe the cartoon anvil isn't going to drop on Indiana football this time. Like with the Acme anvil always falling on the Coyote or Daffy Duck or whoever it is. It always falls on somebody. And
Wile E. Coyote. The Roadrunner stuff.
Pat, you look at who they got coming up. They've got Charlotte, Maryland, and Northwestern. 3 legitimate wins, potentially.
Yes.
That could make them 6-0. And if they're 6-0 going into Nebraska, don't be surprised to see Lee Corso making a return to Bloomington for College game day.
Oh, my. And that'd be interesting because who was the coach when they went to the Rose Bowl?
It wasn't Lee Corso.
It was John Pont.
John Pont, yes.
There's a little trivia there for you. I just still remember the old John Punt. Who was John when they were yelling John Punt? Does anybody know?
Probably John Pont.
It was John Eisenbarger.
Yes.
It was John Eisenbarger. It sure was.
And it was great on Saturday to see NBC show those guys from that 67 Rose Bowl team who made the trip out there. And you and I know an awful lot of IU fans. And I know that game really, I think, to them meant an awful lot to see them in the Rose Bowl.
There were a lot of IU fans out there, too, that made the trip. I saw that. So
I've never met an IU football fan. They're all Notre Dame football fans.
Our friend Tim Marker, him and his sister for years have gone down to Indiana for every Saturday.
They actually missed the new Prairie football game to do that.
Yes, Tim actually they have season tickets, and him and his sister drive down every week when the Hoosiers are at home, and it's a full day. They do it. And those are the kind of folks that I really admire that have been loyal to that school forever and ever. And I just hope that their loyalty pays off to where they have a great season this year.
You're right.
I saw on Twitter one of the writers for, I think, Hammer and Rails, which is Purdue's SB Nation affiliate website, and it was somebody driving around West Lafayette for the Notre Dame Purdue game, and they had an Indiana license plate, and they said, yes, all of the Indiana basketball fans are here to watch their favorite football team.
Very true.
Oh dear.
Very true.
Oh dear.
And I'll tell you what. Speaking of that, I think Purdue last Saturday, it was a lot of fool's gold after beating Indiana State 59-0 because Notre Dame just went down there and took out a lot of frustration on the Boilers.
I don't think Purdue would have been able to beat McCutcheon.
Oh, jeez. Ouch.
They weren't very good. I don't know who was worse. Who was worse, the Purdue team we saw against Notre Dame or the Notre Dame team we saw against Northern Illinois?
It's a toss-up. But I will
say, just by the scoreboard, I would say Purdue, but by expectations, absolutely Notre Dame.
Yeah. I will say this: that game you could tell was over when Notre Dame's just tried to run out the clock at the end of the first half.
Yeah.
And Price goes the distance, and Brad Nessler on there says, Purdue may pay the price, and they did.
Well, they scored 3 times in the last 2 minutes or something?
Something like that, yeah.
It's like Purdue just quit.
Yeah, that was not a good look for Purdue on Saturday.
That was a bad look.
Yeah, you would think with Ryan Walters being the former DC at Illinois that they would be able to put together a better defense, but that was an absolutely sick showing from my alma mater.
Back to the drawing board for Purdue this week, that's for sure. Scott, why don't you take us another break when you have a chance? Yes, they did. They had 2 weeks to prepare for it, which was too long.
So, all right, we will take a break. Before I hit the video, make sure and give a thumbs up on the video if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll be right back.
Finding private health insurance can be stressful. What if it didn't have to be? I'm Tony Letcher, licensed insurance agent. I prefer to personally meet with my clients so I can get a better understanding of your needs and budget. I can even review your current coverage. I don't want you to be my client today. I want you to be my client forever. Call Tony Letcher today to schedule your free consultation or visit tletcher.com.
Facing the loss of a loved one can be overwhelming, filled with questions and stress. Han Funeral Homes in Mishawaka is here to provide compassionate support during these challenging times. With a deep commitment to the families they assist, Han Funeral Homes aims to deliver exceptional care and service. Their dedicated team of experienced funeral directors and staff is ready to guide and support you through every aspect of funeral planning. Located at 505 West 8th Street in downtown Mishawaka, Han Funeral Homes invites you to reach out at 574-255-1474 or visit their office for personalized assistance. Han Funeral Home, a family serving families. Are you ready to take the driving skills exam but haven't gone through formal driver's education? Frick's Driving School has you covered. If you're at least 16 years and 270 days old, which is like 9 months, and have held a valid Indiana learner's permit for at least 180 days, which is like 6 months, you can schedule your driving skills exam with Frick's. They provide the vehicle for the exam. Just bring yourself, a can-do attitude, and a ride to and from the office. The exam takes about 20 minutes, and appointments can usually be scheduled within a few days, and it costs $65. Call 574-256-0650 or visit fricksdrivered.com and book your exam today.
Okay.
This segment of Coach's Corner brought to you by the Black Sedan Band. And our text hotline is also brought to you by the Black Sedan Band. Text us at 214, the Dallas area code. That's where I live, 945-4134. And we are back with Coach's Corner at Dorbin's Old Town Tap.
We're back. Welcome back to Dorbin's Old Town Tap here on the west side of South Bend. I'm here with Kenny Peterson, subbing for Heck tonight. Heck's under the weather a little bit. Heck had some issues with his neck. He's had arthritis in his neck, and it just flared up on him, and he's got some issues, and he's down for a couple days. So we're hoping some modern medicine and some x-rays and stuff can take care of that.
Yes.
So anyway, Scott, let's talk about my Frick's. Well, I've got a couple things. Why don't you fire up our Frick's Driving School Road Team of the Week, and we're going to talk a little bit about Florida State. How's that sound?
Yes.
There we go. That's we always get a good time seeing our little car go across the way. Well, this week we've got a couple of awards, and we might even throw in Heck's Dumbass of the Week award that might go in here too.
Can you say that on the air?
We can say anything we want.
Okay.
We're on cable. We're on the internet, so we can say anything we want.
We're live, Shaq. Don't give a shit.
Yeah. There we go. But our Frick's Driving School has been sponsoring our Road Team of the Week this week, and we thought that Florida State would be involved with this. This week, Memphis goes down to Tallahassee, and Florida State pulls a Notre Dame. They not only pay them $1.2 million to come down to Tallahassee, Memphis wins the ball game.
Yes. And they were the better team.
And kind of like the week before at South Bend, they were the better team that day. So Florida State is now 0-3, and we could talk about them. Are they ready to abandon ship yet or not?
Well, I tell people that when you bring in somebody and you pay him $1 million or $1.2 million, whatever it is, and that team comes in and beats you, I call that a double showcase winner, because not only do you win, do you get the money for the coming there, you win the game. So technically, you win both showcases when you're able to pull that off. But
you remember those Publishers Clearinghouse commercials where they come to your doorstep with a giant check?
Yeah.
I think if a major Division I team loses a bye game like that, they should have to walk out to midfield with one of those obscenely big checks and present it to the athletic director of the other school.
Dig up Ed McMahon to have that.
That would be rubbing salt in the wound, wouldn't it?
Pat, I want to ask you this.
A bye game like that? Oh my word!
Oh, yeah. I want to ask Pat this question, because you've coached and stuff, and how much of what Florida State is going through right now is kind of you almost get the sense that they want people to feel sorry for them because they didn't make the playoffs last year, and you would have thought that would have been their motivation this year to come out and prove the skeptics wrong. Now they're 0-3, And they've got a quarterback who I consider the poison ivy of college football, a DJ Ogumawale, because everywhere this guy goes, the team he plays for just doesn't. They don't perform at the level that they should.
Yeah, and how soon is that going to make a difference? I know, we kind of joke. I've got family that's interested in coming up here to South Bend for the Florida State game in November, and we keep saying, just wait. Those tickets keep getting cheaper every week.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that might be the case. By the time we get to Halloween, they might be giving those things away.
I know, but as a coach, how would you explain what's going on with them right now? Is it just a case where they're just not buying in, or with that much talent, there's no reason for them to be 0-3?
They are the poster child right now for what bad could happen with the transfer portal.
Yeah.
They had 40 players opt out for the ball game last year. So when they did play that bowl game they were in, they were basically have their JVs out there, if there is such a thing.
Right.
It was, could they field a team?
Right.
And which was too bad for the bowl. Well, so they had to go out and find players. And, Coach Saban said it a couple of weeks ago on the college game show. If you got $20 million to spend on the transfer portal and you spend it on the wrong guy, you're SOL.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, yes.
And I think that's what's happened at Florida State. They spent money on the wrong people to the point where I've seen stuff on Instagram and Twitter where boosters are asking for their money back.
Yeah, a refund.
Yeah, they're looking for refunds from some of these players that they've given NIL money to come to school, and I say, hey, look, this isn't working out the way we want. We want some of that money back.
Right.
Because we're not getting the product we want. Almost to the point like gamblers saying, hey, we put money on you and we lost our bet. We need you to pay us back.
Right.
So, it's never going to happen.
We have our famous or our favorite resident Florida State fan here ready to defend his guys. So here, Jordan.
Bring Jordan in. Let him listen a little bit. Jordan, how are you? We are talking about Florida State and the problems that the football team's having right now. So welcome.
Yeah, I heard when you started getting into the Florida, I text Scott and I was like, oh, I've got to get into this.
You've got to get in to defend yourself. That's right.
Go Irish.
Go Irish. Boy. Yes. Well, for you people that don't know, this is Jordan Skoglund. He is one of our baseball gurus, but he's also my son-in-law. He married Stephanie.
Okay.
So they're down. He's down in Nashville, and evidently workouts. You're finished with your baseball workouts today.
All done
so
for the day. All done
got
for
a couple. Yep, got a couple things that you can chime in on. Give us your Florida State angle on what in the world's going on in Tallahassee right now.
Oh God, DJ. Start with DJ. I mean,
Did you hear what I called him, Jordan?
No, yeah. I mean, it's just, but he hasn't been really good anywhere he's been. And like
poison ivy.
You can spend all the money in the world, but you bring in one guy, and it's the wrong one now. Should have never gotten rid of Rudolph. And it's just that's where the transfer portal comes in, though. It's changing college sports in front of our eyes.
I totally agree, and that's one of the things Kenny's sitting here with me, and he mentioned that also. So he called him poison ivy, and I thought that was a pretty good deal. But can it be fixed? Who knows?
I don't think so.
I think, as soon as they lose that locker room, I think it's just going to go from bad to worse there in Tallahassee.
Yeah, I think you just see it even on the defensive side of the ball, too. I mean, haven't been very good on the defensive side of the ball. They had a lot of guys returning, and high draft picks, and now they're just, trying to do what they can so they can get paid.
Right. And you look here at Memphis now. Memphis is 3-0. Why they wanted to pay Memphis 1.2 to come down there for travel money, that's their deal. But to me, Memphis is a pretty good little team to be thinking that they're
that kind of money
to be giving money, saying, "Hey, come down here so we can get us a win." I mean, I'm kind of second guessing the administration on that one. Where
that's
you got
Penny's basketball roster.
Yeah, where that's going to help fill things out. I mean, here you got Ball State going down to Miami to play. I can see that. Ball State made a lot of money. I just hope they stayed healthy.
Yeah,
that's going to help.
Coach in the country.
Yeah, 62-0 And
Florida State could have had Cam Ward, but they passed and went with DJ. That shows you anything.
I know.
It all starts at the top, and I think, it's a tough game, college now, with the amount of money.
Right.
You make the wrong move, like Nick Saban said. You sign the wrong guys, and you spend $20 million. You're SOL, man.
Yeah, exactly. So, and what do they have behind them? I don't think they have anybody behind them.
No.
So they're just going to have to play this one. They're going to have to play this one out.
Yep.
Well, I saw in the latest poll that came out today, Texas is number one, even though Georgia did not lose. I guess Texas has more style points, and so they bumped Texas up to 1. Georgia's now 2. Ohio State is 3. Alabama's 4, and Ole Miss is number 5. So. They just move them around a little bit just to give the sports writers something to talk about for 3 or 4 days until the next game.
Well, you were talking about Georgia. You want to talk about a team that's going to have to run the gauntlet. Here's what they got coming up, fellas. They get a bye week this week. Then a week from Saturday, they go to Bama. Then on the 19th, they go to Texas. Then follow that with another bye. Then they go to the cocktail party with Florida. Then back-to-back, number 5, Ole Miss, number 6, Tennessee.
Woo.
Georgia runs that schedule. How in the world are they not the number 1 team in the country? You're playing 4 of the top 8 within about a 6-week span.
That's kind of a payback for last year, because last year didn't they have their schedule last year looked like Notre Dame's schedule?
Yeah, I mean, what a gauntlet that they've got in front of them.
I agree.
Wow.
Now let's talk about Texas real quick, and then we're going to jump into some baseball for a minute. Texas, good quarterback, Ewers gets hurt in the first quarter? Abdominal something. And so we now see Cooper Manning's son named Arch come in and play. So Manning comes in, middle of the second quarter was it? I was watching a couple different ball games and looked like a pro quarterback, looked like a first-round draft pick. Fit right in, had a couple touchdown passes, ran for 1. I did read a quote from Peyton. Peyton mentioned that because in one of the Arch just turned and ran away from some people on one of like a 50-some yard touchdown.
Right.
And he said that his dad, Archie's speed skipped a generation.
Yes.
It skipped Peyton and Eli and went straight to the grandkids. So I thought that was kind of funny that they were talking about, because for us old timers, we remember Archie Manning, and when he played for Ole Miss, he ran around everywhere. And even when he was with the New Orleans Saints, he ran around out of survival because they never had a line. But I think Arch Manning proved that he can step in there and be the number 1 if necessary. And knowing they've got a pro quarterback, he'll be one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks picked.
Right.
And what's Ewers' first name? Quinn or something?
Quinn.
Quentin Ewers. He'll be one of the first 2 or 3 quarterbacks picked in the draft, and yet they're going to be talking about did he lose his starting position at Texas? So that'll be fun to see how that plays out here in the next couple weeks.
No chance.
No chance.
Wally Pipped.
No chance. All right, Wally Pipp. I hear you. He's going to go back to the bench as long as Ewers is healthy, right?
I saw that. I think Arch in that one run he had passed the combined, I think, college and pro rushing yards for both Peyton and Eli combined.
Interesting. Wow. Had not heard that.
I could be wrong, but I mean that makes sense because Peyton and Eli did not run. I think they ran.
They were
second 40.
They ran because they had to.
Right.
So, well, hey, let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk to Jordan about the main thing I wanted to have him visit with us about. Let's talk about baseball a little bit, and not Major League Baseball, but maybe we can talk a little bit about what Jordan does for a living to start with, and then my topic I want to talk to, and hopefully we get some people to chime in that are listening to us. You can text us. You can see the number there at the bottom of the screen there next to Jordan's picture. Travel baseball for high school and junior high age kids, and combine that with the recruiting and just some of the things that you saw here over the summer with your program that you have down there in Nashville. Talk to us a little bit about that, just as an introduction, Jordan.
Yeah, so we run USA Prime Southeast down here in Nashville. We have an indoor facility. We cater for majors, I would say anywhere between 8 and then obviously guys do all the way through the pro levels. But, travel baseball is kind of where our business has kind of taken us a little bit, and just kind of the whirlwind that, youth athletics has really turned into.
Too many bad parents.
Well, it's not bad parents. It's just they're just not informed. They don't know. You can get on the internet and you can hear one thing from one guy, and, it's just, it's very expensive. Travel baseball is probably like hockey up there or anything like that. And, parents are spending, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a year just to play. And, there's no development when it comes to it. That's kind of a lost, just an afterthought anymore when it comes to youth sports, especially in the baseball world. And, with college baseball and the transfer portal, and, every parent thinks that their son's going to go D1.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's not, it doesn't work that way, especially
Jordan,
now, they're trying to go from 40 roster spots to 34. If you do the math, that's 1,800 less Division I scholarships. So, if you got to be the cream of the crop, you got to be the 1%, and even at that point, I don't think many colleges are going to roll the dice on you. They don't want a project anymore. They want the guy that's going to come in and throw 95, or they're going to hit the ball, 110 exit velo. And they want a 21-year-old, 22, 23-year-old, they don't want an 18-year-old kid anymore, which is sad, but that's just the name of the game.
Jordan, you do a lot of stuff with youth sports down there with the travel ball, and I actually umpire kids baseball. So I see a lot of what I call the attitude from some of these parents that just really don't know the game of baseball. Because realistically, and I can speak from experience, I have a cousin who just has been bouncing in the Yankees organization from AA to AAA. He made the major club early this spring, got called back down, was back up at the major club, now back in AA, AAA. When you meet with these parents, do you ever sit down with them and just say, realistically, the chance of your child making it to the majors is so finite? Or do you go through and try to tell a parent, your main objective is not about winning or losing. Your main objective is to try to teach kids fundamentals and do the right things in terms of sportsmanship, teaching kids how to respect others, that kind of thing?
A mixture of both, know, and I don't even, I was fortunate enough to have my youngest brother pitch in the big leagues. So seeing that firsthand, and it's knowing that it's not, I don't even really address that. It's like, I'd rather talk about getting your son to college, get his education, if that's what he wants to do, the bigger picture of everything. But, they just want to pay all this money, and they're more worried about what level they're playing at and what tournaments they're playing at, and it's like, it doesn't, at 13, 14, 15, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, and like I was talking to Stephanie last night, I was like, if we were to have a son, like my son probably wouldn't play travel baseball until he was probably 15 or 16.
Right.
If you're good enough nowadays, they're going to find you.
Right.
And it's, there's no loyalty. There's no development. There's no development. No. I was talking to Pat last night. You look at Kobe Bryant or Tiger Woods, and they do all these things. Yeah, they played, but think about all the time off the course that they practiced. In my world, it's baseball. If it's not throwing bullpens or getting pitching lessons or hitting lessons and hitting at the facility and doing all those things, you have to do those things 3, 4, 5 times a week if you even want to think about going to college.
Right.
It's not just – go ahead.
And I was going to say, I worry about those coaches who really don't care about the kids' arms at 11 and 12-year-olds. I mean, when you hear the stories of 13, 14-year-old kids having Tommy John surgeries, that falls on those coaches who did not care or weren't interested in the well-being of their pitchers and were more concerned about winning baseball games than they were about the long-term health of a child.
Oh, yeah. I coached a 13U team this past summer, and I lost a ton of games because I just wasn't going to throw a kid past, 65, 70 pitches. Max. There's no need.
Yeah. And you got to remember when you originally got started in this business, you were doing developmental. That's all you were doing was instruction.
Right.
And you kind of got lassoed into the weekend mom and pop style tournaments. Let's go to this local tournament. And then that eventually progressed into going regional, and then your company ends up being bought out, so to speak, and merged with USA Prime. And now you're, in the big leagues, and you reluctantly coach on the weekends, but you'd much rather find somebody to coach the teams on the weekend where you can do the instruction.
Yeah. I mean, and it takes a special individual. Like, that's the hard part. You never want to dog a dad for volunteering his time, throwing himself into the gauntlet of going out there and trying to teach and, mold the minds of the future. There's not many guys like that out there anymore. It's really hard to find good guys that want to put themselves in that situation, because there are a lot of parents out there that, they're just not educated. They don't know, and that's the hard part, and like, that's where, I find it just so funny that they just come at me and, they tell me, all right, this is what you need to do. And it's like, no offense, but no, it's not. No, it's not.
Right.
Like,
that's not how we work.
Right.
I don't come tell you how to run your bank. Don't tell me how to run my baseball program.
Right.
Yeah.
Jordan,
go ahead.
I was going to ask you, how surprised are you when you see a baseball game today, when I consider the lack of the basic concepts and understandings of the game of baseball, and really, I think the lack of fundamentals that are being taught at the lower levels?
Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, for here at us in Nashville, it's resources. So it's fields. We don't have access to fields here. That's the one thing. And then we're in the mercy of middle school baseball. So those really important years of 12, 13, 14, where those kids have to play middle school baseball and we don't get to touch them through that season.
Right.
That you lose so much time and so much development because, but just the baseball is not good. And we just don't have the fields up here to get outside and practice 2 or 3 times a week. But, when you go out on the field, you're not working on individual skills. You're working on team aspects, first and thirds, hopefully.
Right,
exactly.
Defenses, cutoff mans, just the silly stuff that is often overlooked.
Like you said, the team stuff. So let's say when you, in the perfect world, you've got maybe 2 practices during the week that might be out. You're hopefully outside, weather permitting and facility wise. And like you said, those kids aren't standing there taking 5 to 10 swings each.
Right.
You're hitting infield. You're doing situations. You've got a guy on first, and the ball goes to the outfield. Where do you throw the ball? Things that we've all done back in little league and middle school. But that's where these kids are. They have to learn that.
Right.
And I saw
one of your games. Remember, we were over in St. Louis, and it was in warm up. You hit something as minor as you hit the ball to right field, and your second baseman went out to get the relay, and he was facing first base to get the ball. And I thought to myself, okay, he hasn't, he must have missed a practice because he had to catch the ball and then turn around to throw it to wherever he was going to throw the ball. He should be facing center field to catch that ball. And just little stuff like that. Those are the things and that was maybe a 13 and under team. Right. So you're looking at you're looking at 6th and 7th graders. Yep. So I mean that's prime time to be. Yeah, that's prime time to make teaching point because, and like you said, they've got to go get that relay because that's the transition from little league field where you don't need a relay man to now you're playing on a high school size field, and you've got to go out in the grass to get that ball, and at least to line people up and just little stuff like that. So 2 days a week you're doing that, but they're not getting any swings. They might get 5 apiece, maybe. Right. No. But so they've got to.
Our teams, if we have an outdoor practice, you're lucky if you hit at an outdoor practice. That's why we have an indoor facility where you can come in and get your swings in, and actually get some, you can get some quality reps in instead of having, in a 2-hour practice, you're going to get, 15 swings.
Right.
That's not going to help you.
So they're for their money that they're paying for the team, they're inside maybe Monday, Wednesday, they're inside, getting their 15, 20 swings or whatever it might be. They're throwing long toss up against a net. Pitchers are getting a bullpen. And you've got those your velocity machines in there too, where they can computerize. You can check their launch angle and their exit level, all that stuff. Everything's right there. I mean, that's one of the perks that kids have if they're part of your program. Right. You've got catchers in there. Yeah, you've got catchers in there doing workouts. You've got people that are qualified. Some of your business partners, have major league experience as well. So you've got people in there that know how to teach hitting. Right. You take care of the pitching. And one of the things that Kenny referenced was these kids that are getting Tommy John surgery because they're pitching too much too early. I will also add to that, they're not pitching the right way.
Yes, that's right.
Their positioning, their stride, their release angle, things like that. That hasn't been taught to them. They're just throwing. And that's some of the stuff that you guys work on too.
Yeah, I take it a step farther than that. It's a lot of it, I think, too, is them not throwing enough.
Right.
It's not throwing enough. A lot of these kids, especially in the fall, like for us, we're playing tournaments, we're starting, but a lot of these kids, they're not. You're leaving it up to them to throw during the week. If they can't make it because they're playing football.
Right.
Right. So then they're going out and then they're trying to throw 65, 70 pitches and they haven't thrown at all week. No long times, no plyos, no nothing. So that's where that's something that I've been weighing with trying to juggle on my end is how can I can send out all the throwing plans and everything that we have for an organization, but if I'm not there to facilitate that and make sure that they're going to actually do it, these kids are at a risk too.
Yeah, your multiple sport players, especially those middle school age kids, and that's really who you guys work with a lot. It's that 13, 14, 15 age group, which is that maturing time is going on right there. You've got kids all different levels, and like you said, you've got kids that are throwing. Now, most of your pitchers' mounds, are you guys throwing for major league distance right now? Or?
Yeah, we're 60 feet. Yep.
So you're throwing 60.
Once you get to 13 here, you're at 60 feet.
Okay.
I know up there, like you guys go to 54 feet. So it's kind of that bridge in between.
There's that little bit of an in-between at the middle schools.
Which I personally love, especially for the kids that are still growing, don't have the strength. It's really good.
Right. There's that, and that's we'll call that the middle school length. And that's kind of what it is if you think about it for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. That makes perfect sense. Now, coming up here in the fall, we're here at the end of we're in the middle of September. Do you have another fall league that you're involved with your players? Are you guys gearing up for some tournaments coming up here in the fall?
Yep. So we've already started. This year we've elected to kind of stay a little more local for tournaments, just because we have so many kids that are just dual sport athletes playing football, and here our schedules are very wonky with football. I'm starting to learn now that a lot of our JV games are on Monday nights. Kind of a shock.
Kind of like up here in some.
Yeah, that happens.
Okay, how it is up there? So in Florida, they're Thursday nights.
Well, right now up here, freshmen play Thursday, and then the JV games are either Saturday morning or Monday night, depending on what the school decides.
Yeah, so trying to juggle everybody's schedule and, it's making sure you have enough kids, but staying more local. And then obviously once the summer gets here, then we'll be all over. We'll be as far south as Hoover, Alabama, and then we'll be as far north as Grand Park in Indianapolis.
You guys coming back up to Westfield?
Yep. All of our age groups, 13, 14, 15, and 16, coming back this summer.
Okay.
Jordan, I wanted to ask you, too, because this happened, this was a couple years back. I ran into a lady whose son was on a travel ball team, and this was in early March.
Okay.
And she says to me, she goes, yeah, we're going on a travel tournament this weekend. And I'm thinking, great. She goes, we're going to Nashville. I go, really? Nashville, Indiana? She goes, Nashville, Tennessee. And this was in March, when up here it's cold. So basically there were kids that were actually leaving school to go play a tournament. What's your thoughts on that in terms of travel ball teams foregoing school to play tournament games in March? I mean, where's the balance between athletics and the whole education process, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. Because this was 10, 11-year-old kids that they were doing this for. This wasn't middle school or high school.
Oh, yeah. I mean, one of the first questions I get asked for the younger kids, first things is my 11 or 12-year-old team going to Cooperstown? They don't like school's an afterthought. They want to go to Cooperstown, because that's the thing. But yeah, and for how long have they been practicing outside in March? Don't think so.
No.
So it's
sometimes there's still snow on the ground.
It's delusional. It's delusional. You don't need to go anywhere. Especially I've been up there, and you need to go as far as Grand Park. You don't need to go any farther than that to have the fields, the complex. It's the real deal. You don't have to go travel to all these different states to find it. Because for me, like as part of a national organization, so like our national team that we have, they're dynamite. Our 15U team's ranked number 1 in the country. 17 and 16 are ranked 2 and 3, I believe, and 13's in the top 10. I don't get too much into that, but you're talking about the 1% of guys are going to Texas, Alabama, LSU, Clemson, Vanderbilt. When you get to that level, but for me, as like on a local level, if I have kids good enough, like I have a platform for them to go and play now. They're not going to stay with Coach Jordan. Like I want you to go. Like you need to go play, and like travel baseball's turned into the minor leagues, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And you gotta. It's sad, but that's just
That's just the reality of it.
It just seems like you lose all kind of perspective when you're pulling kids. Because I know if I just told my parents, hey, I want to go play at a travel tournament in Nashville on the first week of March, my father would have given me the death stare, because there'd have been no way at God's green earth that he would have ever allowed any of us kids to play in any kind of tournaments if it interfered with school. That's why I say, finding that balance between sports and education is the big challenge I think a lot of the youth sports have today.
Yeah, I would take, like, for me, it's when you say that, it's like, to like now it's so watered down in Nashville. There are 100 different organizations, and then a dad gets mad and he leaves, and then he's going to go start his own team.
He's going to start his own team.
He's going to take his ball and go home.
You can't keep a group of 8, 9, 10, 12 boys together and really develop them and teach them.
Right.
Let them make mistakes. And I feel like that's the one thing that kind of kills me, because I love working with the younger kids. There's no development. There's no tough love. There's no putting your arm around a kid and saying, all right, man, like you screwed up. Like that's life. Like you're going to make mistakes, and like letting them grow, because everybody's looking for the next best thing.
Right. Yeah. It's because that game on the weekends is still, very important to them.
Sure.
Where they can't just come to you on Tuesday and Thursday for a workout and then go play for somebody. They're still too worried about their playing time on the weekends, and what's going on
for.
Or what team I'm with. It doesn't matter. You and I asked you last night when we were talking, how many college, when these kids go to a showcase, who's there? The advertisement, they get this paper say college coaches will be there. Well, and I know the Division I coaches are not going. They might send a grad assistant, maybe. But most of the coaches that are going to be there are Division III, are NAIA, and you're still not going to get the head coach. You're still going to get one of the assistants that they said, hey, go down here and put a shirt on. That says Lipscomb, or it says, Carson Newman, or it says, Bethel College up here, or it says, IUSB, whatever it might be, and make sure they see you. So then they know that you were there. And They might even pay some coaches to show up at some of these things and pay their travel to say, hey, will you come to our showcase?
Yep.
And also, too, when I think parents are naive enough to say, when they say on these tournament things, college coaches will be there, all of a sudden it gets to their head. It's like, hey, I'm going to help Joey at 12 get a scholarship. When the reality of it is, it's so finite. And like I mentioned earlier, my cousin that's been part of the Yankees organization, the stories that he's had to go through just to even make it to the majors for just a cup of coffee. And talking to my aunt yesterday, it is incredibly difficult. People don't realize that.
Oh yeah. And it's, the showcases, my youngest brother, now that he's done playing, he's coaching NAIA in Sarasota, and they do it all the time. Come and do it, and and they'll pay $1,500 for the weekend, and X, Y, and Z is going to be there. And they're not going. And that's where like Perfect Game and PBR and all these things, they can put out all these things, and so these college coaches have access to all of these athletes,
right?
And they can sit there and send them. Hey, we saw you, whatever their spiel may be. We saw you, we're interested. We saw you, you showed interest in us. Come to our summer camp. It's all about money.
Sure it is.
Absolutely.
So these 13 and 14-year-olds that they're saying, hey, they send a highlight tape and all their statistics from their travel team with 13 or 14 to a college. Who's gonna see that?
Nobody.
Nobody. You're exactly right.
Nobody. I mean, they're not going to start looking at you until, I would say Division II, Division III, NAIA, your senior year of high school, they're going to start looking at you. But before that, I mean, they could care less.
It's just grandma, grandpa, and whoever else you've sent the tape to family-wise is going to see it.
It's like, they can just go jump in the portal like Eric does, and he'll go and get a few fresh, incoming true freshmen that he needs to get, and then everything else, he's going to get 20, 21, 22-year-old guys that already know the system. They're not looking for projects anymore. Their jobs are on the line. They're getting paid to win. So it's like you got to go and find these guys. And, prime example I was telling last night, my old next door neighbor, Nate Powers, phenomenal future ahead of him. 6'8", 235, right-handed pitcher, incredibly smart, goes to Briarcrest in Memphis. Back in the day, I compare him to Eric, who was 6'7", 190, left-handed. He probably would be getting scouted pretty heavily now going into his junior year professionally. But he doesn't throw 95 now. If you're going to go Power 5 baseball and play major ball, you have to throw 95 minimum.
Exactly.
Minimum. I mean, look at all these guys, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, even the freshmen that they're bringing in, they're sitting 93 and they're touching 96, as a freshman, like you gotta throw hard now. Back when I played, I was good at 89 to 92. Like that was perfect for me.
Right.
So it's just the way that the game's going. You got to throw hard and hit hard.
Sounds good. Jordan, hey, we're going to wrap it up. Appreciate you coming on, talking some baseball with us. And we may get back to you here in the next couple of weeks as we get closer to the playoffs and let you give us your 2 cents worth on the majors and tell us maybe what we got to look forward to with the big boys on TV coming up here in the next couple of weeks.
I appreciate you guys having me very much.
Yes.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Jordan.
All right, Jordan. All right. That's my son-in-law, Jordan Skoglund, down in Nashville, talking to us a little bit about youth league baseball.
Yeah.
Lots of good information on his part.
Let me introduce you all to the very much missed Mr. Ron Hecklinski.
Yes.
Heck, good morning. Heck,
so
is it good
now?
evening or what? You are on the air.
Hey, what's going on, PK?
Oh, I don't know. Are you semi-vertical?
PK, I'm not there to control the dials, man.
Yeah, Scott's got you.
Because you're not here tonight, Pat. We've cleared out the bar here.
Hey, PK, what's going on, man?
Oh, not much. Can you hear us now? Can you hear me now?
Nope.
Yeah, with Heck not being here tonight, they've cleared out the bar. There's nobody left here.
I hear you. Let's see.
I mean, I think that tells you need to get back here next week.
I think so. Scott, take care of the sound for him, can you?
I thought I had him on. You can't hear us?
I hear you.
Okay.
Good. I hear him faintly.
What do I need to do here? Does he need to turn his stuff up there? He's just on the phone, isn't he? So he's going to have to listen. You got him plugged in on that mixer?
Yeah, which he should be. You can hear me, right, Heck?
I got you plain as day, man.
Here,
I can hear Heck. He just can't hear us.
Well, here we go. Here, ready?
What's that do?
Go, try it again, Heck. All right. One more time. Now I got you on speaker.
Ready?
Yeah.
PK,
Heck,
you got me, man?
I can hear Heck. You just going to hold it up to your mouthpiece and go from there?
What the hell?
Yeah.
Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, we're trying.
All right. Well, hey, let's jump to pro football. Talk to us about the Bears last night.
Hey, I mean, seriously, I got half a neck, half a head, and, no spinal column, and you want to talk about the Bears?
Well, I was trying to avoid the medical. I didn't. If you want to give us full disclosure on the Red Cross team, I mean, we can. I didn't know what the injury list was, protocol on the stuff.
Yeah.
Phil,
let me go over that for all our listeners, man.
I just told the listeners you had a little arthritis in your neck.
Yeah, I got a little arthritis in my neck, all right, man. But I had a great day on Friday. My brother came into town, and we went out to eat. We were actually at the DoubleTree Inn, the Hilton Inn across from the convention center, and got done eating. And there was a bus driver who drove the Stanford men's soccer team to Notre Dame because they had a match. And I'm talking with him, and talking and walking and oblivious to the fact that there's a step or two. And I take another step and down I go. Now, if I would have gone down and just down in a heap, I might have hurt myself, but not as bad as I am now. But I tried to regain my balance. And when I tried to regain my balance, my head was like a missile that hit a post. The top of my head hit a post like a missile would, and knocked myself a little silly. But obviously, at that point in time, the bus driver's watching. I don't know if there was anybody else watching, but we have this thing called pride, and we're embarrassed when we do something like that, which is really stupid. And I got up, and I was seeing stars, and the bus driver was, "You okay?" I said, "Oh yeah, man, I'm all right, man."
Did he hold up two fingers? Count how many fingers was he holding up? I say, how many fingers was he holding up? Could you count the two fingers and say, "Put me back in, coach"?
No, I thought he was holding up 13, but I could have been wrong. And then I got home and my neck was just really, really bad. Went to the hospital, took a CAT scan, and got a fracture in my C2 vertebrae. In a hard collar now. The protocol is that I'm meeting with my neurosurgeon on Friday, and they deemed last Friday that I did not need emergency surgery. So we're going to see what my neurosurgeon says this week, and I believe my protocol will just be to be in a hard neck collar for 6 to 8 weeks. But
okay,
well, any direction. It's just painful, man. It's brutal. And it's probably the hardest injury I've ever had to fight through. My wife has been great taking care of me and on me and stuff like that. But yeah, I can't believe I'm missing our show. And don't even think of telling me that I've been Wally pipped. All right.
It never crossed my mind. No,
the Kenny's Wally pipping me.
I have been 100% sympathetic. All I can do, I mean, I was almost just going to leave an empty chair here. So we're just concerned about your health, and I kind of left it up to you to decide how much you wanted to disclose. And but yeah. Sound like you went head first. It would have probably been a targeting call on that post. If you went head first on that thing with the crown of your head, they might have thrown a flag for targeting. I don't know.
I don't know, but I can hardly hear you, big boy.
Well, have Scott hold that thing closer to the mic because
we're trying.
Scott's got you old fashioned. He's got his mic, his phone held up to the thing. So. we've got about 5 or 10 minutes or so. We're going to try to finish up. Did you watch any of the Bears game last night in between your medicine? I don't have any idea what kind of medicine you're on. Can you actually watch the game and understand it, or are you delirious?
No, I'm on the good stuff, man. I'm on the good stuff. I need to make a house payment this much, so I'm standing in the corner of Ironwood and Edison trying to sell some of those junkies in town. Not going too well. But anyway, man, I can hardly hear you. It tells me you guys are having a great show, and keep it up. Just know, Kenny, that I will be back, and you ain't Wally Pippin me, man.
You can have it back. I'm just the Joey Bishop tonight of your Johnny Carson.
Oh, there you go, man. There you go. The Bears offensive line is non-existent for a professional football team that went out and got skilled players, signed the best quarterback in the draft after the best quarterback, and thought that the line was in good shape. The line is pathetic. I'm just saying.
They almost look like Colorado. They got all these skilled players and no linemen to protect them.
Yes, it's quite disheartening, to be honest with you, man. Quite disheartening.
Well, it's just one game. Just one game. They'll fix it.
So when you construct a football team, the first things you construct are the offensive defensive lines.
Yep.
And defensively, their defensive line is solid. Offensively, it's just not good. Not good at all.
I agree. All right. Well, you take care of yourself. I'll get back with you.
Have a great end to your show, and I will see y'all next week. Kenny, thanks for pitching in, kid.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right, Heck. Take care. I'll talk to you soon. That's the. You got him, Scott?
You can put your sign in his yard.
Oh, put the sign in his yard?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. That's
the New Carlisle.
What's that?
The mayor, your campaign.
Oh, my
sign
campaign. It's going really well. And I think I've got about 95% of the vote right now. All precincts are reporting well, and we haven't gone into the Leidick area yet. But if anybody in Leidick wants to vote for the mayor, we're more than welcome.
That's funny. Well, hey,
that was our guy Ron Hecklinski. He will be back,
and we'll get the sound made up. Next week, maybe he'll be healthy enough. We can at least get him on a Zoom call that we can. But I don't think he's not in a position to even want to be seen right now.
No,
a baseball hat and a neck collar is what we're going to see from him. So, hey, I was going to mention just real quick before we finish up, Major League Baseball, your wild card going on here. We've got I wrote myself a note. The last game of the season is the last Sunday of the month on September 29th, the last day of the regular season. Right now in the American League, it looks like the Twins are on the wild card. Chasing them is Detroit, Seattle, and Boston are right behind them. In the National League, you've got a tie with the Mets and the Braves at the wild card. And right behind them, 5 games out of the wild card is the Cubs and the Cardinals. And with we'll say just over 2 weeks left, maybe 3 with this being a full week.
Yeah,
you've got 3 weeks left minus yesterday, and is that can somebody go? They're going to have to go 8 out of 10 to do that. Hope somebody else goes into 10.
Yeah, because they don't have any of the tiebreakers, so they've got to find a way to win out. I mean, literally win out and hope that they catch a break or two, because they have no tiebreakers.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and Scott's got it pulled up there with all the what ifs.
You can see the playoffs started today. This is what the rankings would look like.
Okay. So you can see you've got some people got the double, but you got Cleveland and the Yankees on one side. You've got the Dodgers and the Phillies, and then everybody else.
Right.
So those are all the what ifs right now.
I think you've got in a good spot.
Now
they would be at number 2.
The wild card, is it still just a 1 game, or is that a best of 3 or best of 5?
I think it's still a 1 game, isn't it, Scott?
Yes, I believe the just to get into the wild.
Is that a play-in game? If there happens to be a play-in game for one of those spots, it's just 1, I believe.
Yeah, because I know they've eliminated the tiebreaker game, so everything is there's a formula, I guess, that determines the tiebreakers. Now, there's no game 163.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense. WNBA, they've got 4 days left.
Yes.
They've got games tomorrow. They've got games on Thursday. I was looking at the stats. The Indiana Fever are a 6 seed right now, and they'll probably stay a 6. Phoenix is right behind them. And then they've got 3 teams that are fighting right now that are all tied for the 8 seed. You've got Washington Mystics, the Chicago Sky, and the Atlanta Dream. Actually, Atlanta and Chicago play each other tomorrow. Washington has to go to New York, which is not a good thing. No. And on Thursday, they finish up, and the 3 playoffs potential teams all play teams are already in. So that's going to be a tough call. Chicago has to go to Connecticut. Atlanta goes to New York, and then Indiana plays out Washington.
And what an unbelievable season this has been for the WNBA, especially with the arrival of Caitlin Clark and what she has done more than I think, and not taking away from anybody else, but what she has done as an ambassador of the game of women's basketball at the professional level. She is almost like a folk hero in Indiana, not just in Indiana, but the entire sport.
Oh, sure.
And I think people ought to sit back and really thank this woman for really taking women's professional basketball to levels it's never been before.
Yeah. Well, and you think yesterday they had a home game at 3:00, which was basically third quarter of the Colts game. Colts were in Green Bay, but they had a game at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, and it was sold out.
Yeah. Who would have ever thought that?
They had a sellout for their last home game yesterday against Dallas, and they did win that game. So they're now 1 game above 500. So you're right. Caitlin Clark's been a big deal for that. Well, listen, let's wrap this up. Kenny, thank you for chiming in. We want to make sure and thank Jordan for hopping on earlier. We definitely want to help, thank our sponsors, the Black Sedan Band, Tony Letcher Insurance, Hahn Funeral Home, and Frick's Driving School.
And real quick before we take off here, promote our broadcast on Friday night at Rice Field. It'll be New Prairie traveling to Rice Field for Elkhart. For those that want to listen on Broadcast Sport, go to New Prairie Sports. It's an audio-only broadcast with the Digsy Dogs and Grill pregame show. Local hamburger stand out in New Carlisle being our pregame show sponsor. 7 o'clock. Kick pregame show, then followed by kickoff at 7:30.
That's right.
With Pat and me.
Yep. So, Scott, thank you very much for helping us out. So there's our plug again. Broadcast Sport. You can find us in the archives. You can also find us anytime on YouTube, along with Spotify and your Apple podcasts. So with that, Scott, why don't you wrap us up? And we will be back here at Dorbin's Old Town Tap next Monday night at 6:30. Maybe Heckleby. Go from there. So,
all right.
Thanks again, everybody.
Bye. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We will be back next week.
And roll. Your mama don't dance and your daddy don't rock.